This video serves as an introduction to the 2.5-inch hose line and an overview of some single firefighter deployment techniques for this important tool. The 2.5-inch hose line is the engine company's heavy hitter. The 2.5 is a big hose putting out big water for use on big fires. Its flow and reach capabilities simply cannot be matched by smaller lines. A single properly deployed 2.5-inch hose line will provide greater knockdown power than multiple small lines flowing equivalent GPM. When looking at this photo, ask yourself, which line am I pulling off the rig first? If your first thought is to go for the 1 3/4 crosslay, you're probably not going to stop this fire before it consumes the house. This much heat is going to require a lot of water applied in a short amount of time. This fire occurred in a remote non-hydrant district, and the first due rig was a 1,000-gallon pumper with 2 personnel on board. 1 3/4 lines were utilized for exposure protection, but the bulk of the fire was knocked down using a 2.5-inch blitz line straight up the gut, utilizing available tank water. So how do we know when it's time to pull the 2.5? Well, just think adults. Adults is an acronym the New York City Fire Department uses when teaching firefighters to size up the need for the 2.5. A stands for Advanced Fire on Arrival, such as what we saw in the previous slide. D is for Defensive Operations. U is for when you are unable to determine the extent or size of the fire area. There are many instances where you may not be able to tell from an exterior size up exactly what is involved or how much area there is. In these cases, the general thought for most people will be to pull the 1 3/4 line, since that is what we use the most often. This may end up being the right decision, but you should have the 2.5 stretched and ready to deploy should you be faced with a bigger amount of fire than you thought. L is for large, uncompartmented areas. If you watch as much HGTV as I do, you know that people nowadays really love big open floor plans to maximize the amount of space available in their homes. These big open areas provide fires with a lot of oxygen and a lot of free space to grow and spread, possibly beyond what 1 3/4 lines will be able to handle. T is for any situation where tons of water is going to be required. Finally, S stands for standpipe operations. 2.5-inch hose is the preferred hose type for standpipe operations, particularly when dealing with high-rises and commercial structures. There are some myths about 2.5-inch hose lines that make some firefighters reluctant to use them, even when the situation calls for it. The first myth is the old, we can't pull a 2.5 because we'll use our water too quick. Well, water supply is certainly a big consideration when it comes to strategy and tactics, especially since we work in an area with very few hydrants available. However, the fact is that running out of building is a lot worse than running out of water. A quick knockdown of heavy fire using the 750 to 1,000 gallons available in your booster tank is more likely to succeed using a 2.5-inch line. It's simply a matter of water versus heat. Water must be acquired quickly enough to absorb the BTUs. In situations like this, you need to think in terms of gallons per second rather than gallons per minute. If you are applying water at too slow a rate, it will not be able to absorb the heat and you won't accomplish anything other than maybe looking good for the cameras. If your size up tells you the knockdown cannot be achieved with available water, you may have to pull back and protect exposures until a reliable water supply is established. The second myth is the, we don't have enough manpower to pull the 2.5. There are very few fire departments that can truly say that they have enough manpower, but the fact is that a 2.5-inch hose line can be deployed and maneuvered by a single firefighter for an exterior attack. We'll cover interior stretches some other day, but the big takeaway here is that an aggressive use of the 2.5-inch line does require a few components to be successful. The first is proper hose handling technique. The second is the use of modern hose, i.e. not the cotton jacket hose with the giant brass couplings from 1952 that's sitting on the rack. The third is proper nozzle selection. A smoothbore is the preferred nozzle to mate with a 2.5-inch line, although a low-pressure, high-flow combination nozzle will also do the job. You want to try to stay away from high-pressure combination nozzles due to the large amount of nozzle reaction that comes with them. When discussing single firefighter deployment of a 2.5, the typical technique taught to pretty much every recruit at the fire academy is the Chicago loop. With this technique, a loop is made in the hose and the firefighter sits on the spot where the hose crosses itself with the nozzle out in front of him or her. This technique is typically associated with the plate pipe nozzle, which has large ears that the firefighter can grasp onto and direct the stream. Plate pipe nozzles were developed in the 1890s, back when firefighting was basically limited to exterior defensive operations. Plate pipe nozzles are heavy and cumbersome to use, especially if you're trying to do something other than sit on the hose. The Chicago loop limits the firefighter to a fixed defensive posture. It works, but in the 21st century, blitz guns can perform this sort of operation easier and better. They can flow more water, are easier to redeploy, and can even be left unmanned if necessary. There are several hose handling techniques that allow for firefighters to assume a more aggressive posture with the 2.5. These techniques allow for both comfortable operation and quick redeployment of the line. It is important to know that none of this is new or revolutionary. In fact, these guys on the right were doing it in the 1940s. The nozzle man didn't even have to stop smoking his pipe. The first technique is what is commonly known as the East Coast style. With this technique, the firefighter kneels on his or her outside leg with the inside leg upright. The leg should be positioned to create a triangle, which acts like a truss for stability. The hose is placed over the firefighter's inside leg and supported by the dominant arm. Using your arm, clamp the hose into your rib cage with your elbow pinned into your upper leg. The bail should be an arm's length away. Open the bail using your non-dominant hand, then move your hand away from the bail and use it to provide additional support just behind the coupling. With this posture, the nozzle reaction pushing back on you is picked up by your upper body and redirected down to the ground via your inside leg. As you can see, this posture gives you the ability to comfortably direct the stream in any direction while still maintaining excellent nozzle control. The second technique is commonly known as the West Coast style. With this technique, the firefighter holds the hose in an upright position with the inside knee resting on the hose, the dominant hand supporting the hose, and the non-dominant hand preparing to open the bail. Kneel down to the hose using your inside knee and start opening the bail as you drop down. Both arms are used to support the hose and direct the stream. In this posture, the inside knee is used as a clamp to direct the nozzle reaction downward into the ground. In review, the 2.5-inch hose lines are a heavy hitter. Its usage is not limited to surround and drown operations. Aggressive deployment of the 2.5-inch line can save lives and property when faced with a well-involved fire. As a homework assignment, look up Andy Fredericks and study the information he and his disciples have left for us.